Iran says its missile attack on Israel was over, barring further provocation. This as Israel renewed its bombardment of Beirut's southern suburbs in Lebanon. And for the latest on the situation in Israel, let's cross over to SABC News Correspondent in Tel Aviv, Trent Murray. Trent, a very good morning to you. Quite a evening, no doubt, you've had, and it's a new day. Is there silence? Talk to us about what happened overnight and certainly where we're standing this morning.
Yeah, look, it's been a pretty dramatic 12 hours or so, hasn't it? Starting really with that missile attack from Iran. I mean, certainly the Iranians were prefacing that something was coming, but I'm not sure that the Israelis were quite prepared just for the scale of it. We understand around 181 ballistic missiles were fired. Now, these are the missiles that can travel so fast that it really only gives the Israelis about 10 minutes notice. They travel at hypersonic speed, which is why when those alerts started going out on people's telephones, everyone here very quickly got to their shelter. In fact, in the afternoon, they changed the advice here, telling anyone in the Tel Aviv area to stay close to a shelter in anticipation of something coming. And it seems that advice was probably well-founded given what we saw. Now, the current information we have is that there was no Israeli casualties in all of this, despite the scale of the attack, and that is probably largely due to people following that advice from home commands. But we do understand a Palestinian man up in the occupied West Bank did die when one of those missiles fell on him. We need to remember that up in the occupied West Bank, they don't sort of have the bomb shelters and telephone emergency signals in place like they do here in Israel. So I think just a lot of assessment going on around what happened. Certainly what we can see from some of the pictures and video that's emerging of last night is that some of those missiles did manage to evade air defense systems. I think just given the scale of it and the speed, things like the Iron Dome and the Arrow 3 system were just not able to intercept all of them. So a lot of assessment right now, but yes, certainly a pretty big night for people, not just here, but I think the entire region, amid fears that this could spark a wider war.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, obviously there's silence at the moment, nothing happening. Iran have said that they, from what the reports we're reading, is that they don't have any intention to have any further attacks on Israel now. But I suppose one doesn't know. What are the warnings that the Israeli government are giving the people in Tel Aviv at this point, and in the whole of Israel, in fact?
Yeah, well, look, so the Iranians are saying effectively now, look, this is all done and dusted. They're saying that this is our response to what you did with the likes of Ismail Haniyeh and Hassan Nasrallah, with those targeted strikes from Israel that killed them. And they're effectively saying that's it for now. However, if you attack us, then the response from us will be even bigger and stronger than what you saw last night. And certainly the suggestions that we're hearing from the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu, who said last night in a speech that what Iran did was a grave mistake, the sort of mood music suggests Israel is going to respond to this. Now, how they respond, we just have to wait and see. Do they target Iran's oil infrastructure? Do they target military facilities? Or do they go for what many are fearing here, which is some of the nuclear facilities in Iran? I mean, all of those options really could spark all-out war between Israel and Iran. So I guess we have to be careful around the guessing game, but certainly many people here do think there probably is some sort of response coming, and then you just get into this dangerous cycle of escalation and response. In terms of the advice right now, look, some of the advice has been lifted somewhat. People are out and about on the street. I can see some people out there surfing and exercising, so sort of life goes on normally somewhat, but I think probably in the back of their mind, many are remembering where their nearest shelter is in case there is any sort of other attack. Just should mention briefly, we've seen 50 rockets fired from Hezbollah up in Lebanon in the past hour or so, but all of those were right up in the far north, not here in Tel Aviv, closer to the Lebanese border.
Trent, I just want to speak to you about something that obviously reports about 6 people being killed in a suspected terror attack in Tel Aviv. This was just before the missiles were fired, and they were saying that this happened in the streets of Tel Aviv. It was a shooting and a stabbing attack, and 2 gunmen began suspected terror attacks on the city light rail system before continuing on foot. Do we have any further information on this particular attack?
Yeah, so that happened last night it was not far from here, it was about 800 metres down the road, and what we're being told is that 2 men were on the light rail when they began attacking people. One had a rifle, one had a knife, and then as the tram came to a stop, they alighted from the tram and then were attacking people at the stop. The latest information we have is the death toll has risen now to 7 and 9 people have been injured. A security guard as well as an armed civilian did open fire and was able to what the Israelis call neutralise those 2 men. We're being told that the 2 attackers were 2 Palestinians from Hebron up in the occupied West Bank, but it would have been a pretty trying time for emergency authorities here, because as they were responding to that incident and trying to administer first aid to people on the street, that's when the missile attack happened. So sort of quite literally, as the paramedics were down there, they had to stay on the street as the missiles were coming to try and do their job. So look, a difficult moment. It was definitely one of the worst terror attacks Israel has seen in many years, and we understand security is now being heightened on the public transport system in response to that.
All right, we'll leave it there. Trent, thanks so much for updating us, and of course weighing in on the other story that certainly is a big one, with the amount of people being killed in that shooting and stabbing incident in Tel Aviv, as we got that update from Trent, besides all of the missiles and bombings and those threats coming from each party involved in this Middle East crisis.